Borada, welcome back. It's lovely to see you again. How's the weather where you are? We've had a lot of rain here, so I've been trying to sort of put off filming this. I just don't think it's going to stop though, so I'm really sorry if this audio is picking it up. I feel like we've got a good relationship going on, and so I wanted to share with you something very close to my heart, and I'm trusting you with this one because I don't want to put pressure on you, but if you don't like it, it will crush my soul. I want to share with you my favourite album of all time. If we haven't met before, hello, I'm Honor, and I guess we're just jumping straight to best friend status because I wanted to share with you a very, very meaningful piece of art for me, and that is Light Upon the Lake by Whitney. For regular viewers of this channel, you'll know that I really struggle. I have a hard time with picking a favourite of anything, but I can, without a doubt, say that this is my favourite album of all time. So who are Whitney? Whitney are a Chicago band. They formed in 2015 after the breakup of Smith Westerns, which are another fantastic band if you haven't listened to them. Julian Ehrlich and Max Kakasek, who were both in the band, decided they wanted to continue making music together. They worked really well, they loved their friendship, and they became the brains behind Whitney. They described themselves as country soul, taking huge influence from artists like Levon Helm and Alan Toussaint. Now, I like to see albums as a whole piece of art together. Everything from the artwork to the order of the songs. I think constructing that is equally as important as writing the songs, if you get what I mean. And that's why I hold this album in so much regard, because it's not as if these songs are my favourite songs of all time, and it's certainly not my favourite genre, but this album as a whole I cannot describe as anything less than perfect. I'm never not in the mood to listen to it. I've never gotten sick of it. Julian himself described it as an infinitely replayable album, and that couldn't be more true. There is something magical about this album. It has the whimsical charm of like a vintage LP. It's almost like it's been run through a grain filter. I'm going to go through these songs, tell you why I love them, and hopefully I can convince you to give this album a go. So we open with No Woman, and this starts with these almost ceremonious trumpets that I think open the whole album, not just the song, and they kind of become like a running theme throughout. Now, this is a breakup album, so we are introduced to this character that's kind of a mix between Julian and Max because they were both going through similar things at the same time, and it's just about coming to terms with that. Our character is going on a journey, he's taking a moment to breathe, just sort of figuring out his next move. He's in like this blurry kind of limbo space, and I think the music does a really great job of mirroring that with these hazy trumpets and sort of muted guitar tones. The mixing on this album is superb. It was done by Daniel J. Goodwin and Jacob Portrait. There's a real calmness to this instrumentation. It sort of eases you into the album, calms you down, takes away the stresses of the day, sort of cleanses your palate in a sense, if that makes sense, and it just primes you to really enjoy this album to the fullest. And then we move into The Falls. This one's definitely more of an upbeat track on the album. It's got these sort of bouncy drums and this steady guitar that drives you forward at a nice pace, and it's got that real like late 60s, early 70s twang to it. There's a whole lot of instruments doing a whole lot of very interesting things, but it all feels really harmonious still. This song kind of references the use of alcohol or drugs to sort of get through this lost feeling and the question of whether he'll be able to cope well enough when he decides to stop. This track flows into Golden Days, or better known as the song that made me cry at Laneway 2017. I waited in the scorching sun for a long time that day. Like, it was crazy hot. I had sweat run down my back, down my legs, and collect at the top of my socks. But it was so worth it. We were front row. It was one of the best festival experiences of my life. The vibe was immaculate. They were drinking red wine on stage. It was just so lovely. And yeah, something about this song just made my eyes start watering. Luckily, it was super sweaty, so I don't think anyone really gave it a second glance. This track is about trying to come to terms with what's happened, or just sort of really understanding where the relationship went wrong. He's sort of going through that bargaining stage of grief. He's saying, like, if I could have just noticed where these golden days were slipping from us, maybe the outcome would have been different. Again, everything about this song just works in harmony perfectly. It reminds me of like the Beatles mixed with the band. It's like they've been able to distill and bottle the like elixir of nostalgia. Dave's song is a funny one. On the surface level, it's just another cute little love song, very much in the same sort of theme of the last tracks, but Dave was actually their crazy old neighbour. He was a unique character. They were kind of scared of him. He was a bit unpredictable. He had a ponytail and outlaw tattooed across his belly, and he would just come over unannounced with a bottle of like half-drunk champagne, shirtless. And because of that, I can't help but giggle when I hear the line, "Oh, I know, I wish you were my friend." Then we get the titular track, Light Upon the Lake, and no words that I'm about to say will do this track justice. It's definitely quieter than the rest of the tracks. It's sort of sweet and thoughtful and cozy. It's about looking to the future and the unknown. It has the most beautiful guitars that just dance together, if that makes sense. It's gonna sound very dramatic and corny, but it's like they were able to take the image of fresh rain dripping off these leaves in the sunshine and turn that into sound. Do you know what I mean? No matter where we go, I have one word for this song, and it is jangly. This track feels sun-drenched. It's like we're looking through a box of Polaroids of someone's best summer. It's the most optimistic song on this album. It's sort of about that naive spontaneity that you have at the beginning of a relationship. Our character is saying, hey, I don't know where we're going or what we're doing, where we should root ourselves, but it doesn't really matter. We'll just make it up as we go. It'll be fine. The guitar solo is just absolute chef's kiss. It's so good. I have it tattooed on my brain. I can recall it at any second. On My Own has this lovely guitar that perfectly pairs with Julian's falsetto voice. It's just like a match made in heaven. The trumpets, again, on this track are like gorgeous little highlights. You know, like when a painter finishes off their work by just gilding little elements with gold paint. This song is kind of an extension of that hazy limbo space that we're introduced to at the start. It's about, yeah, complicated feelings. You want that love back, but you know that it's not quite right. So what do you do? Red Moon is the only instrumental track on this album. It sort of gives the listener a break to reflect on what they've already heard. It feels sort of sadder, but also contemplative. It's just a really nice breather, and instead of vocals, you get this trumpet that sort of takes that place of laying a melody over the backing. Our second last track is Polly, and I have a lot of empathy for whoever's point of view this is. It's kind of admitting that a relationship was doomed from the start because there isn't that equal share of interest between the partners. This Polly character really meant a lot to this person, and they can't stop thinking about her and want that back, but there's also doubts as to whether Polly was as emotionally attached to this, whether their time together meant as much to her as it did to him. This one's a spectacular one to see live. Again, the trumpets just really work so in favor of this band's like unique sound that they create. And finally we get Follow, which if I can convince you to listen to any of these tracks, please, please, please let it be this one, please. This, in my humble opinion, is the greatest closing track on an album of all time. And I know that's a big call, but I will die on this hill. The story behind this track kind of differs from the rest of the album. It's actually about Julian's grandfather passing. He passed during the recording process of this album. It just builds from this cute country bluesy kind of little ditty to this beautiful optimistic send-off. He's saying that the bad days are behind him now and there's no more suffering to go through, and one day when it's time, Julian will join him. The rain is really coming down hard now, so I really apologize if this is interfering. The ending of this song is just the prettiest thing, and it makes me very emotional thinking about the way I just glow inside while I'm listening to it. I just truly think this is one of the best songs ever written. I love this line where he sings, "It's like you're running back home again." And to me, that's what this album is. I feel like it brings me back to my innermost me. I feel like a lot of the time I don't really know who I am. I feel like I have a lot of characters that I slip into for different scenarios, and I don't really know what is truly me. And you know, with internet and advertising and this sort of like girl boss culture, there's so much pressure to become this brand rather than a human. Are you a cool girl? Do you dress cottagecore? Are you a Y2K girly? And I just sometimes want to run away from everything and live in a volcano cave like Jean-Baptiste Grandmaison, because I don't know what I want to be. And then I remember I can listen to this album and reset and come down to my most cellular me. I am a little girl again, in my hometown, being perfectly content with walking across fields and picking blackberries. There is something magical woven into this album, and I really think that if we are able to bottle it, it should be prescribed to people, because the world would be such a better place with it. If this hasn't convinced you to give this album a go, I don't know. Oh my god, I'm really competing with this right now. If this hasn't convinced you to give this album a go, I don't know what will, and I feel like I've made a fool of myself. I hope you enjoyed my little word vomit on this album, and if you did, a thumbs up would be really appreciated. I felt like it was time. We were at that point for me to introduce you to this. At the time of recording this, we just hit 5,000 subscribers, and I just want to say a massive thank you. I can't really believe that it's happening, but I'm really happy with this little community that we're building. I hope you have a lovely day and a lovely rest of your week, and I will see you next Friday. Take care.